It is such a pleasure to be here today with all of you. It's so wonderful to hear all the stories and think back to all these years and see classmates speak to each other after a while. And to all of our Golden grads, and especially to our newbies, the class of 1972, go Bears. Woo! Thank you so much for coming back here, for coming home today, and for continuing to build on the connections that you made here at least 50 years ago. So let's just think about 1972. I wasn't here yet in 1972, actually. I became an undergraduate at Berkeley in the fall of 1977, 5 years later, and graduated in '82. So was a professor, am a professor, and you were all students. So I figured we could have a little quiz today. And let's see how you all do on this quiz. So let me start out with my first quiz question. In 1972, which Bay Area baseball team won the World Series? Okay, that was too easy. Let me try a slightly more difficult question. If you owned a car in 1972, what was the average cost of a gallon of gas? Oh, I guess that's too hard. Someone want to guess? Down. 36 cents. Actually, this is not on my quiz, but I'm actually been wondering. Does anyone remember what tuition at Berkeley was in 1972? No, it was never free. No, it wasn't 2,000. I was a student in 77. It was only 500 then. Anyone remember? Okay, we're going to have to look into it. I'm guessing it was somewhere under $200. Pretty amazing, right? So anyway, those are the kinds of things that's fun to think about back then. And that, of course, is one of the reasons why we're here today. Now, many of you in this room joined Haas at a time when there were incredible, it wasn't even called Haas, when there were incredible changes happening on both a global and a national scale. In the 1960s and early 1970s, many of you were witnesses to incredible tragedies and once-in-a-lifetime achievements. You also joined Haas when the school was entering a period of incredible innovation. At that time, Haas enhanced and expanded its business curriculum by developing courses focused on international management, marketing, and finance. That was the time when we launched a joint business and law degree. We launched the professional accounting program, and we launched the Berkeley program in finance. In 1970, we were among the first, if not the first, business school to pilot a course in entrepreneurship and business development. In those days, people didn't think entrepreneurship could be taught. There's still a big minority who still think entrepreneurship cannot be taught. But nevertheless, we are giving courses in it. We also hired experts like David Aker. How many of you ever took a course from David Aker? Oh, we have a couple of you. He is known as the father of modern branding, and he had taught many of those classes. 50 years ago, we also introduced our evening and weekend MBA program, the MBA program that allows people to stay in their jobs and get an MBA at UC Berkeley. It is ranked right now, this program that we started 50 years ago, it is ranked #2 in the entire country. How many of you graduated from the evening weekend program? Anybody here? We have one individual. That's great. Anyway, that program is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. So all of you, equipped with this cutting-edge knowledge, you raised the bar, you forged new paths in real estate, in corporate finance, in energy, and in much more. So right now, as I speak, we are undergoing another period of incredible transformation, incredible innovation. How we teach is being upended. The way that professors teach has basically stayed the same since the 12th century, right? When somebody would walk onto a podium and start talking. And suddenly, in the last 3 or 4 years, it's been completely transformed. This is really an amazing time to be at a business school. Under my deanship, we are redefining and building on what Dean Lyons did in identifying what does it mean to teach principled business education. You have, of course, our defining leadership principles reminding you in all the corners of this room, what does it mean to be a student always? What does it mean to have confidence with that attitude? And we are continuing that quest to create the most principled business education in the world. And right now, I'm focusing on 3 key areas in the curriculum. In particular, I'm focusing on innovation and entrepreneurship, something we started teaching 50 years ago. That's the first focus, innovation. The second focus is sustainability, and the third focus is inclusion. So let me talk a little bit about innovation. You'll hear a lot more about this today from our guest speaker. We really know that what makes America as a country rich and what makes us truly successful is our ability to innovate, our ability to come up with new ideas which lead to these incredibly successful companies. And nowhere else is this more apparent than in California and in the Bay Area. So we are really emphasizing that strength of the Bay Area, of California, and of the nation by focusing on entrepreneurship and innovation. We've created a new faculty group, of which the guest speaker is a member. We're beginning construction of the Haas Entrepreneurship Hub, which will be an important part of Berkeley and Haas's innovation system. That's one form of innovation, and you'll hear more about this from our guest speaker. At the undergraduate innovation, at the undergraduate level, we're also focusing on innovation in the sense that we're expanding this undergraduate program from a 2-year program to a 4-year program. How many of you here were undergraduates at Haas? I was actually in Berkeley, but not at Haas. So we're moving from a 2 to a 4-year program. We'll be admitting students as seniors in high school, and that will be the main form in which students will join the program. We were able to make that transformation thanks to a $45 million set of donations from alumni and friends of the school last year, including a lead gift of $30 million from Ned and Carol Speaker. That is the largest gift in the history of the school. We believe that having 2 additional years to deepen your career discovery, your co-curricular activities will really make a huge difference. To be honest, we aren't making major shifts in the curriculum. Students will still have time in their first 2 years at Berkeley to explore the incredible breadth of opportunities that Berkeley offers. But they will have more of an affiliation from day one, and we think that's going to be a really big deal. That first cohort will enroll in 2024. I want to thank all of you for your support in making this vision a reality. My second focus is on sustainability. We're really emphasizing sustainability in a very broad sense, from financial stability to supply chain stability. I'm sure you're all aware of the challenges of the supply chain these days. And we think that's really, really important. We're weaving the fundamentals of sustainability and inclusion into the school's core curriculum. Some of the things we have launched in the last 2 years is we launched a certificate program for our MBA students so that they can do a deeper dive into sustainability. At the undergraduate level, students can do a summer minor at the intersection of entrepreneurship and sustainability. So a lot of what you're seeing is innovation in the area of clean energy. So it's a really nice interaction. And we're also doing a lot of work with the College of Natural Resources at the MBA level. Just at Haas alone, we now have 30 sustainability electives. So we're a leader in that area. The last area that I want to briefly touch on is inclusion. I know that in front of this group I spoke, I think the first time I spoke to all of you in 2019, I spoke to you about international trade and foreign investment, which is my area of research. And one of the interesting results is there's been a backlash against globalization, not just in the United States, but all over the world. Those of us who study globalization, we know that nations that embrace it and that go global eventually do very well. But there are clear losers from globalization, and because we have not been good about compensating those losers from globalization, that progress in becoming a more open society has been stalled. So it's really, really important to address those left behind. At Haas, we've just added a new course called Business Communication in Diverse Work Environments, and it helps students improve their ability to work and lead diverse teams in global organizations. The state of California, over 50% of our high school students are Latinx in the state of California. Our state is probably the most diverse state in the United States. That is not really reflected in the composition of the University of California, Berkeley student body. And that will need to change for us to continue to receive support from the regents, from the state legislature, from the governor, and from our voters. We have made that course a required course. We're the first leading business school to do so. So how does Haas do so much? Well, it starts with our people. It starts with all of you, our alumni, our staff, our faculty. It's just incredible what we've been able to accomplish in 2022 since I joined in 2019. You have given back so much to the school. We are really, really grateful to all of you. We have a lot more to do, but I'm really excited about it. So just want you to know that your philanthropic investments have really helped us thrive. Back to Tenny's original quote, it is your support that makes us great and makes us literally the heart of what's next. So I have the great privilege to introduce Saikat Chaudhuri, who will deliver our guest lecture today. Saikat Chaudhuri is the inaugural faculty director of the Management, Entrepreneurship, and Technology program, also known as M.E.T. That program, by the way, it's a jewel. It's a joint undergraduate program where you get a bachelor's in engineering and a bachelor's at Haas in 4 years. We have about 5,000 applicants every year for 50 spots. Those students are off the charts amazing. Saikat will also be heading up the new Entrepreneurship Hub that I mentioned to you. He holds the Grimes M.E.T. Chancellor's Chair at the university. He has a faculty appointment in our new Entrepreneurship and Innovation group, as well as our Management of Organizations group. He also has a faculty appointment in the engineering department, because as I said, this program is joint between engineering and the business school. His research specializes in corporate growth and innovation strategies, particularly high-tech mergers and acquisitions. Oh, I forgot to mention that we stole him from Wharton. Very important. We were actually both faculty members at the same time there before we came here. He also works on high-value outsourcing and partnerships and technological innovation in dynamic environments. Please join me in welcoming Saikat Chaudhuri.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, everyone. I cannot tell you what a privilege it is for me to be here. Unlike many of the others, I actually had no affiliation with UC Berkeley whatsoever. I studied at 3 other universities, all of which were private, including one which is down in the South Bay. But I've been here for only 2 years, and I've fallen in love. I'm so smitten by UC Berkeley that I cannot ever imagine leaving again. So it's been an absolutely wonderful journey, and the support that I've received by Dean Ann Harrison and everyone else, and the welcome has been incredible. And, I ask myself every day, what is it that I love so much about the University of California at Berkeley and the Haas School of Business in particular? All these things that you guys all know, but it took me a long time apparently to learn. It's not just that UC Berkeley is one of the most really eminent universities on this planet. I mean, we have more top 3 departments than any university but Harvard University. I don't know if you knew that, but these are all tidbits I'm giving you so that you can also market for us, because that's the other thing that we need, a lot more word of mouth. And, given that Harvard doesn't really have much of the technology side, you can really think of us as a combination of Harvard and M.I.T. So that's what we are, right? When it comes to startups and entrepreneurial activity, this won't come as a surprise, especially given what Anne told you about the history of entrepreneurship and innovation here. We're neck and neck with Stanford, and so it's incredible. If you look at the latest PitchBook data, they're number 1 with something like 1,260 or 1,270 venture capital funded startups right now. We're at something like 1,250. Negligible difference, right? Absolutely negligible difference. And then come a few other institutions, well after that. So we're neck and neck there. But you know what I love the most? I love the most that this is a place which creates impact. It's about novel thinking. It's about revolution, whether it's technological revolution. Think about semiconductors and Intel and Apple and all these things which are ours, or civil rights and all the changes that happen. It all begins here. So if you look at the list of priorities that Anne outlined for you, whether it's sustainability or entrepreneurship or inclusion, well, guess which university is poised to actually make an impact? It's us. Because we have the DNA. There might be others who have some capabilities in these areas too. We have the DNA, and it's incredible. Now, the reason I'm so excited to be working on entrepreneurship here at Haas is because all of those statistics I quoted, even on the entrepreneurship and innovation front, that's really, if you think about it, there's been so much emphasis from the rest of the university focused on science and technology, and I would say there has been an undernourishment of the aspects that we focus on here, right? Which really have to do with the viability, the scaling, the long-term sustainability of these businesses. So just imagine if we can actually organize these efforts around entrepreneurship and innovation a little bit more, and if Haas can take a leadership role to make sure that we think about factors that have to do with impact and sustainability and the economic viability of all these entities, how much more we could do. That's the vision. Our vision here is to be really the leaders, because that is what Berkeley does best. And you were all here during a time which was a golden period, and I'm very, very, very also optimistic, just like Anne said, that this next 10-year period is going to be incredible for Haas and for UC Berkeley. So that's why I'm excited to be here, and I cannot imagine ever leaving. So what I wanted to do is share with you today a little bit about what we're doing with the Hub. And since you're quite a vocal group, I hope that you'll give us comments and ideas and questions, and we'll make sure to have sufficient time for that as well, so that we can get these things, really get the best ideas in the room. First of all, I'm not sure if you've seen the building that will become the Berkeley Haas Entrepreneurship Hub. It's actually not too far from here. It's on Piedmont Avenue, a couple of buildings down. It was the old Department of Demography, which we received. And this is what it will look like. It's a Julia Morgan building. It's a charming building with a lot of historical and architectural value. So we have agreed to maintain and retain its inherent characteristics, its facade, but to make it a modern hub for not just us, but for the rest of campus. Once we're done with it, then, yeah, there we go. It'll look something like this, and I'm giving you a little bit of a preview, but we'll be releasing more information soon on everything else and how it will look. But imagine a vibrant space where students from Haas, at all levels, as well as those from across campus, congregate and are able to dream up all kinds of new ideas, which can turn into startups and have incredible impact on the world. Here's one view, here's another view, and you'll see that, actually in the prior one as well, we have our leadership principles, which are also etched here, and we have lots of vibrancy. It's meant to be a fun space as well. So what are we going to do with this, right? Why build this hub? And I have to thank Anne for her, not just vision, but also her leadership in actually realizing the vision. That's the hardest part sometimes. And also her predecessor, Dean Rich Lyons, whom many of you would have known. He's, of course, taken on a role as the Chief Innovation and Entrepreneurship Officer here as well. And really in working on these ideas. And then I have the privilege of taking this to realization. So there are a few things that we want to do, right? One is, of course, we want to support Haas students and faculty in exploring and pursuing novel ideas and really pursuing entrepreneurship and innovation. But that's not our only goal. We would love for all kinds of folks from across the university to come to us so that we become a center, a true hub for interdisciplinary activity, because to solve those world's most intractable problems, we need views from all kinds of perspectives in order to be able to do that. But there's also a strategic reason why we'd like to do this. We want to do this because, like I said, Haas is a very fine school within a very large university where science and technology has a very strong presence. And so if we can increase our influence and our visibility in the entire innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem, we will be better placed, make impact, and strategically raise our profile in this great university as well. Now, I don't know how the entrepreneurial landscape was and the entrepreneurship and innovation landscape was when some of you were here, but I do know that today, if you just look at this overwhelming set of different activities that we have on campus, programs that we have on campus, offices that we have on campus, and centers that we have on campus, we have a lot going on. But like everything else at Berkeley, our model is let 1,000 flowers bloom, and so that's what we do over here. We're basically in the business of allowing all kinds of things to sprout and to spawn, and we then have to figure out how to navigate all this. So we have to figure out how and where will this entrepreneurship hub that we're building play, and what value can we add. So that was our first assignment, to think about this strategically. And we realized that despite having so many resources on campus, there are a number of things that ironically we still lack in order to take entrepreneurship and innovation to the next level. One is, believe it or not, we have very little dedicated physical space. If I simply want to mingle and mix with all my colleagues or others whom I don't even know, or get to know people who might be co-founders, or simply share experiences, I don't have a place to do that on campus. We need a physical space to do that for these informal collisions, for community, all those great benefits. Secondly, what's really surprising is how high the bar is to actually get exposure to entrepreneurships, to entrepreneurs, to mentors, to alumni, to investors. It's really hard. You basically have to join some sort of program, spend 3 or 4 months working on a pitch, maybe participate in a competition like a venture competition, and those are very valuable. And then at the end of it, you might get to meet a few investors, right? What about the pipeline is the question that we asked ourselves. The third is precisely because we have so many different initiatives going on, it's very hard to have an overview. It's very difficult to know where should I go. If I'm a student who simply is curious about entrepreneurship, where do I go to figure out whether it's the right thing for me? If I have a really specific question, like, that intellectual property and that patent, I need some guidance on what to do. Where do I go? We don't have a place where we can go and simply get ideas and be able to navigate the vast resources that we have. So we need to coordinate this somehow. So that's why we developed this entrepreneurship hub. And we basically thought about it as we'd like to make entrepreneurship accessible and easier for everyone. Accessible is very deliberate. Inclusion is very important for us. Easier is also very deliberate. Think about it as entrepreneurship for everyone. Awaken your inner entrepreneur, with a particular focus on those who really are just curious, the entrepreneur-curious, and may not know whether or not they want to pursue it, but who might have an inclination to at least check it out, and that's something that we should offer them. It's really important to us, though, that we actually create something which complements the rest of the ecosystem and doesn't just replicate what it does. And so what we noticed when looking at this is that in the landscape, we have a lot of activity which has to do with the educational component of how do you get from point A to point B, such as our own Berkeley Haas entrepreneurship programs that we have, which are phenomenal, which colleague Toby Stewart, along with Rhonda Schrader, lead. We also have the Sutarja Center in Engineering, which does great work. We have Skydeck, which is an accelerator, right? But we don't have something in the earlier stages. So we wanted to create something that's inviting, that's fun, that's collaborative, a place where we can mingle, we can do something, and we can actually take things to the next level. So hence, our motto is we want a place where we can connect, build, and be discovered. And those are the elements that we have as we make entrepreneurship accessible and easier for everyone. Let me just go into a little bit of detail on these things to share what our vision looks like. Right now, what you have is on campus, if you're quite inclined to do entrepreneurship, and if you really have the persistence to go through, and some might argue that that's what's useful, if you have the persistence, you will go and find how to navigate the system and go through and do everything. But that means that the number of people potentially going into the field of entrepreneurship and doing startups, or even working at large companies and changing the way they do things, is much lower than it could be, because many people will simply be put off by that, right? So we want to increase the funnel on the other end and get more people to come. That's our ultimate goal. So to do that, we need a place which is very open, where there are flexible configurations. Whether you want to hang out and play games, or you want to just chat with others, whether you want to be exposed to all kinds of speakers and investors and alumni who have success stories from the world of entrepreneurship and innovation, or whether it's something where you want to work on something, you need a space to put your actual device there, you need space to have meetings with potential investors, all of that is what we cater to. Imagine, for instance, speaker events. Think about tailgates before a game where we can bring all kinds of people in, get people excited about this whole enterprise, and move forward with that, right? We can have speaker events, just entrepreneurs, people in the room here who share their wisdom about what's important to do these things, whether in a small or large firm. We'd like to do lunch and learns, where we have all these experts from different parts of campus come in and tell us about their entrepreneurial and innovation resources. And we've got so many organizations and student clubs on campus that have so much energy and want to move forward, including decals, student-led courses, which are spread around are on campus, they have nowhere to meet. Well, why not give them a space? Why? Because then they can learn, then they can work, they can build community, they can ultimately enrich each other, find teammates, for instance, find co-founders, and do these things. Imagine a faculty member who has an idea but has no sense of how do I find a group of students to work on this. Well, give them 10 minutes or 5 minutes on an evening, have a reception afterwards, they tell people about their idea, and they simply mingle. That's the kind of thing we want to do, and it's very important that it's a fun place. Otherwise, people from across campus might not trek all the way over here. We love the location that we have, which is absolutely beautiful, and you can see that right around here, and we're across from the stadium. But if you think about it in terms of being in the center of campus, well, we're not quite there, so we have to get people to trek up the hill to us. So building is the next piece. What if I do have an idea? What if I want to make progress on it? I need to know what are my resources on campus. So imagine if every freshman who comes here just gets an introduction into, wow, here's the landscape, here are the things you can do. What if we do our workshops and some of our programming and the educational piece which we do, what if we have those kinds of things here? What if we have little workshops by founders, for instance, in helping us make progress? Those are all the kinds of things that we do. What if we have different events where we're able to actually make sure that we make progress because we can find teammates? The navigator, or the navigation role, is a critical one for us. So how do we solve that problem that we have so many resources here, but you don't know where to go? What if we have a navigator who's basically there, well, not quite 24/7, but metaphorically, yes, where you can drop in with your question and simply ask. And there are no stupid questions, because you might be someone who has no idea about entrepreneurship and just wants to learn. Well, what do I do if I have no idea and just get a sense of it? And what if you're someone who has, something very specific? We want to be agnostic. We're not just going to tell you, stay here in the hub. We'd like flow, but we also want people to go and subsequently say, oh, you know what? Let's go. I will tell you, that IP question you have, there's a law school clinic next week, and they'll help you solve that. You need a lab? Go over to this engineering department. They have a lab to work on these things. That's our vision. But you know what happens? We become the hub. We become the central place where everybody comes so that we can then move forward with that. So this is very, very critical to us. We're thinking also about competitions and how we can bring those things in. We will have spaces where people can literally get lockers and put these things. We have a garage-style area for collaborative work to happen, right? We have meeting rooms where you can meet with the investors virtually or in person. All of these things are what we want to do. Now, the final piece is be discovered. So I mentioned to you that it's actually a really high bar to be able to get access to alumni, to entrepreneurs, and investors. And we were wondering about why that's the case. Why can't we make it easier? There seems to be this model out there that you have to do so much work, participate in a venture competition, and then you have the right to actually go talk to some of these. That does not bode well for the scale and scope of entrepreneurship. Do you know why? Because how many of us, I don't even pretend to be able to actually pick the winners. Sure, when we do these competitions, we always pick a winner, there's an award. But have you seen how many startups come out of a set that may have been a finalist or never made it or never went through that path? There are many of those, so we shouldn't even pretend to do it. Anne mentioned something really important. We will never have the resources, well, maybe not never, but it's unlikely that in the short term we will have the resources like our private peers. If you think about it, right, all the Nobel Prizes we win here, the Fields medals that we have, all the national academies we're part of, the MacArthur Genius Grants that we win, are done on a budget which is a fraction of what any of the private institutions have, and yet we're not only neck and neck, we're ahead of most of our peers. So what does that imply? Exactly, my conclusion and my inference is exactly the same as Anne's, which is that we need ingenuity, and we have it, and we have dedication too, which is incredible, and that's what makes the secret sauce. So in that spirit, we thought, how can we actually overcome this? We can't just do more competitions, but what we can do, for instance, is we can actually think about it as, well, what if we change the rules of the game? How do we change the rules of the game? Well, you don't need to win a competition or become a finalist in order to meet an investor. What if we had poster days where early on in the process, there are 25 or 30 of these different potential, startups and students that come. And we have all our alumni, everybody just walk together and walk through and get feedback very informally from these groups. That's what we could do. All of a sudden, we've also multiplied the number of ideas, given them guidance. Of course, the mentorship program, and I'm hoping that some of you will be mentors as well as our alumni, and office hours and guidance of this sort, this is the kind of thing we want as well. We can turbocharge the things that others do by building in much more scale. So these are the exciting opportunities we're working on right now. You might wonder, where are we in terms of realization of all of these things, right? Well, as I said, the work started before I joined, thanks to others. So there are plans that were made and a vision document that was created. You may have seen earlier versions of this as well, which we've tried to honor as well. We started the process of strategically conceptualizing how we do this and coming up with our vision over the summer. And now we're very close to launching construction. We actually have done the bidding process already, and now we have a contractor, and we're working on that. We look to open next fall. That is our goal. That's the exciting time. So now what am I doing? On the one hand, worrying about construction, making sure that happens, but then the most fun part, of which I hope a number of you will also be a part, a listening tour. Listening to what do we need? How can we make this better? How can we make this exciting? How are we going to stand out and make Berkeley proud? And how we're going to make Haas stand out on campus and in the Bay Area. Some years from now, I think we're going to be in a position where people come to us. Entrepreneurship, oh, we go to Berkeley. That's where we go. And that's really the vision that many of us have.